My guests today are Sarah Adams and Dave Benton, and they're better known for their. Is it call signs? That's what they call them, call signs, or just okay?
Right.
I was gonna say code names, but that's like more spicy.
Yeah.
But call signs. So Sarah Superbad and Dave Boon, and they have a book that they published just over a year ago called Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy. I have left links down below for you to be able to get this on Amazon in hardcover here, or you can also get it on Kindle. And now as an audio book, shout out, I believe it's Smoky Tunes? Smoky Media. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Tones, yeah.
Smoky Tones. There we go. Shout out to him for I didn't even see the bloopers on that when he was pronouncing some of these names.
Well, he actually was with me in Tripoli, so he was on the Marine Fast team. So he's actually back to 2012 family. So that's why we had him.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sounds like that's someone I better have on the show too.
Yeah, he'd be a great interview for you. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, Smokey, if you're watching, because I know you're watching, some way, somehow, whether it's in the replay, hit me up, man. DM me. We'll probably get this squared away. So that's even that means a lot, because I can imagine the heart that went into this project. It wasn't just to, another voiceover hire kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, but I did leave links to this, and also are the autographed copies still available? Because I picked up the link. All right, all right, great. So the link down below in the video description here on Rumble, you'll be able to get links to the book on Amazon. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble and other book retailers, but on Amazon is where it's a little more convenient for you to get it as a hardcover, Kindle or Audible, if for those of you that are, don't want to pick up a book for some reason. But also, do you want your autographed copy by these two amazing patriots? You can also follow their link down below that will lead to their Squarespace site and get that ordered. So some people really don't know you guys yet. So I'll let you do the intros now for yourselves. You guys can fight over who goes first before we get rolling on the film here. So please have at it.
We'll let ladies go first.
So I'm Sarah Adams. I was a CIA targeter, and I worked on the ground in Benghazi. And starting in 2015, Boon and I did our own investigation to identify the terrorists at the attacks, and we identified over 150 terrorists at the consulate, and we identified all 10 members of the mortar team who struck the CIA annex.
Dave Boon Benton. I was on the global response staff during the Benghazi incident.
We should be a grateful nation for both of your contributions and beyond, because this book I highlighted here is not just a read. This is an actual case file. And if you actually pick it up, and just put it in the frame there, and you'll be able to see how many attackers Sarah and Boon were able to track down with an open source investigation, find out their latest whereabouts. And this is already outdated, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You guys found more. And last summer, I believe around June was there was was it the mortar team that was you were able to track down last summer, or someone was being extradited from Turkey to Libya?
Yeah, well, that was actually one of the most senior terrorists, and then we tracked the mortar team down and released them the beginning of November.
Oh, and I do have some comments. I thank you for those of you participating in the live chat. Let me bring in, this one was from Tomogo. Tomogo is commenting here. Says the movie is very compelling. Have watched many times. Great, and you'll be able to say you've never seen it like this. So this is going to be a unique experience. And Rucksack Radio, that's Tommy. You were on my show last week. Thank you for being on. Never should have taken so long to get Fastco in there to assist these heroes. This incident was right in Fast Mission's set wheelhouse. Oh, let's see what we'll see what they have to say in response to that one. Well, how do you respond to this? Tommy's saying never should have taken so long to get Fastco in there to assist these heroes. This incident was right in Fast's mission set wheelhouse. I'm sure you understand it better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is the attack started at 9:47 p.m. The DOD didn't even set the 0 hour until 5 a.m. So that's basically when they started, moving everybody. And then even when they planned to move the FAST was never intended to go to Benghazi. It was never written on paper to go to Benghazi. The only plan for the FAST team was to go to Tripoli because they were focused on a Facebook threat to Tripoli. And then, as most people know, the FAST spent multiple times changing clothes because the State Department was caring about what they looked like when they came in the country. Really, what happened is the Libyan Air Force said, bring in any assets you want, bring in anyone you want. So for anyone to sit around and talk about what uniforms they're wearing, like the Libyans didn't care. They said, come in and do what you need to do. Just State Department started politicking too early.
After this, it explains Libya falling into the hands of ISIS. ISIS
Yeah, it
wasn't.
actually first fell to Al Qaeda, and then Al Qaeda and ISIS fought, and ISIS kind of like became more powerful, if that makes sense. So it did first fall to Al Qaeda. It's just people like to only focus on ISIS to push the Al Qaeda narrative away, just like we're seeing in Afghanistan. They talk about ISIS to not do the Al Qaeda narrative. It's actually, that's more of a political narrative in the press following that than actually exactly what happened on the ground.
So something that doesn't get talked about either, though, like right after Benghazi, like the next day, there were people in the city who were upset and disgusted about what happened. So it wasn't Americans versus Libyans. It was Americans versus Al Qaeda and the militias. But the city of Benghazi was not happy about what happened at all, and they actually supported us being there.
Yeah, and which is why I'm glad it's included here in the film, because there's reels. These are the reels of people apologizing for that.
And there was 20,000 people at that protest. 20,000. This is a city of only 500,000 people, and those protesters went on to storm the Ansar al-Sharia headquarters and kick them out.
Wow.
So they weren't just standing there with signs. I mean, they got aggressive, and then they showed. Unfortunately, Al Qaeda did fall, and they started the second Libyan war in 2014 against Al Qaeda. But yeah, the people of Benghazi are tough as nails, to be honest. And they have won. They beat both Al Qaeda and ISIS in 3 years. So all these other governments who can't maybe should go sit down and talk with them and find out how to win.
Another thing that's interesting is life in Libya right now. So Tripoli and Benghazi are two different worlds. You know, life in Benghazi is actually thriving right now. They just had Mike Tyson there.
Yes, I saw that.
Right. So it's different because it's under General Haftar. It's run differently. Night and day compared to Tripoli.
Yeah, you know, Gaddafi banned boxing. So to see Mike Tyson go there when the Libyan was fighting in this, I'm not good with boxing, this lower heavyweight thing, and Boon's like, she's getting it all wrong. But to see Mike Tyson show up and support this is so important to the people in Benghazi, because they weren't allowed to do it, right? And so for them to watch their local guy actually win when they weren't allowed to train and all these things, it's so good for the city, and we were really excited to see it.
Yeah, I saw you covering that on your Instagram, which I recommend people to go follow. And I will be leaving links.
Only if you have a good sense of humor, follow my Instagram. We don't want to be offending anybody.
It's okay. Offend away. I'm sure that
threatened the Taliban today on it. So like
hey, see, what I tell people is, look, the more sophisticated audience is going to understand either with satire, a sense of humor, or people expressing frustration, and just the overall, just peeling back this onion that we did today, and one of the most in-depth ways, honestly, that I've seen it. I was going to talk a lot about this on my own, but it's like it won't come across as effectively from someone like me, seeing it more as a fan, if you will, and your average American. But to those of you, those that served there, and Tomogo puts up there, and I highlighted here, oh, my heart and heartbreak. Yes, and that is true. Which is why I wanted to share this with you all. You want to support the investigation, because they're taking it to the enemy, folks, and to support the investigation, pretty much the only way is to buy their book. So the links are in the video description down below. You can get autographed copies that are available. Also, Kindle, Audible, if for some reason you're too lazy or too busy to pick up a book, but still pick up the book, won't hurt, and support their investigation, which is an open source investigation. It was vetted through, I believe it was the State Department and the CIA. Yeah, so that's how thorough they have been with what's available to them. And here's Tomogo sending a message to you both. Thank you, Boon and Sarah. Your bravery, your voices, and your investigative work to find the truth to this horrific event is so invaluable. May we never forget the heroes we lost. Thank you. And if you're writing something else, Tomogo, I think it got cut off there, so I'll wait to see if you add to your comment there. And thank you, Andres. Great show. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And for those of you that are interested, let me share this real quick. This is one of the foundations started by Oz and his wife, Crystal. It's called Shadow Warriors Project. And this is a way for you to support the Shadow Warrior. A lot of you might have heard about the Wounded Warriors. Yeah, none of that actually goes to those that never stop serving. What some people might have thought as guns for hire or mercenaries, no, not necessarily. These guys, they serve, or I guess they're not technically under the government per se, because they're more like private security contractors. So now it's more like the public sector as opposed of. Another thank you to Dave and Sarah here from Metalhead. So this is one of the ways you can help a warrior to get back on their feet.
Exception when it comes to Benghazi. So GRS is part of the agency. We work directly for the agency. We weren't private military contractors. We work for the agency.
Yeah, they were direct hire independent contractors, right? So their CIA pays him directly, right? There wasn't a company in between or something. So that's just something people don't actually understand.
And it's a way to disassociate.
But it's also to understand that you guys were still technically considered independent contractors because you had to come in with your own workers' comp.
So it's provided by the government.
And the only one that they're able to get is the one that's only there. At least that's how I understood it. So, well, thank you for clarifying that. But it's still
there's issues. There's issues with it. It's written a very specific way, and anything that's not within that language isn't covered. So it's not perfect, and there's been legislation to have it changed. But no, it's provided.
Yeah, and like one of the pieces of legislation that actually was changed, Bub's family did it with their local representatives up in Massachusetts, because how Bub's worked, because he wasn't married, he could not get any death benefits. So he had this forced insurance he had to pay for, but nobody could claim on his insurance because of how it was written, if that makes sense. So luckily his family did push through legislation, and that now has been fixed for people in the future. So the one thing a lot of people forget about all of us in Benghazi is we have been pushing any changes for these things that were incorrect, as you can imagine, because we do want to not have the future people impacted in the same way. And there has been a lot of legislation changed as a result of the families involved in Benghazi. And I don't think that ever gets covered in the press, as you can imagine, because nobody wants to talk about Benghazi.
And not all GRS are direct hires. Like a lot of them are staff as well. So it's
like
not
our team
a separate
leads.
thing. Right.
Yeah, the team leads were government CIA staff, for example, the one in Benghazi and the one in Tripoli.
Yeah. Well, thank you for adding more commentary and clarifying that as well, because you served, so you would know better than someone that's from the outside looking in.
There's a lot of information that by design is just kept. GRS is not talked about widely, and there's a reason for that. So there's a lot of misinformation. Like you can Google stuff, most of it's wrong, but there's just not a lot of information out there, and it's for a reason.
Yeah, and that's why I try to cut through the noise of the middleman or whatever and go straight to the source, because that's the best thing I can do.
In Oz's situation, it was better for him, for the military to bring him back on and get him the medical because of some of the issues with the comp they had, if that makes sense. So like Boon said, those things need to be fixed.
Absolutely.
And luckily he got a situation where someone was able to help, but he did realize that problem in the system.
Yeah, and I'm very glad that they also started the foundation, Shadow Warriors Project, and also there's the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation that I'm going to give a shout out to, over here on the show, and on top of this is for you. Well, it's a little different for both of you, Sarah. I don't know how you sleep at night having to go through and parse through all that calamity, but one of the true things that people do suffer from, and this also doesn't get talked about enough, is just what these kind of events do to people, including those that served. We hear a lot about PTS. Some people don't like calling it PTSD, but PTS is a real thing. And in the case of my friend that passed away, yeah, he did suffer from PTS, but he didn't take his life or anything like that. But the reality is that this is something prevalent that does happen in the community, which is sad. but like I had a mutual friend of yours, it's Rick. And so the tank was on my show to talk about his story. Very eye-opening and explaining also the VA process and trying to get all these access to things. But what
Yes.
isn't entirely understood remains the the mental anguish that's sometimes faced. So Tig wasn't on the show today, but he did mention this, and I wanted to give a shout out because he's bringing some awareness to this. That he's hanging out at this is Colorado, by the way, the Charis Bible College for a 3-day men's advanced conference, spreading awareness for these foundations. One of them is the Warrior Shield Foundation, and this other one, the I have to pull this one up. Let me see, open here. Yeah, American military family taking our veterans, first responders from suicidal to successful. So to help them get back on their feet, for those that are struggling with that battle that you fight alone in the darkness, and to not have to do it alone in the dark. And I wanted to give a shout out to all of that because it's all important. And um, well, it means a lot to me. I think that's how I'm not trying to say like, oh, good for me, but that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of the veteran community feel like I'm considered among them, and I'm not here to steal anyone's valor, man. But I understand what it means to be in that mindset, in that dark place. And we didn't have this on the recording because we talked about this after the fact, the first time you guys came on. And Boone, those words stuck with me, man. You said after I opened up about my own struggles, talked to you guys about me, and you said, Andres, I know we just met, we just only met, but I'm glad you're still with us. Dude, that hits right here, man. And I really take that to heart. Thank you so very much. And that's what some people also don't understand. It's for those that have been through it and have been in that dark mindset. Well, that's something. And I thought about it too. I'm like, should I invite Boone? I don't know what that might open up if I ask him to watch this movie with me. Because of what emotions it might bring up. But I want you both to understand. I did not approach this as a way to like, oh, maybe I'll garner more views. Sure. I do my show and I'll keep doing me. But I want you both to know that I respect the heck out of both of you, and you're great Americans, and for what you do. And I hope more people really understand what this has been all about and really take to heart what it means. That and I shared this when I eulogized my friend, when I said, men do not die until they're forgotten, somewhere on those lines. And that's why I keep talking about this, to continue building more awareness. And I won't shut up about it. It's not a topic that's made for my show, but I constantly bring up veteran affairs, and especially this one, because of how things get taken out of context and it's just marred by politics. But hats off to both of you, because the fight never stopped for you guys, and you're still going. For those of you that saw 13 hours right there, Boone's face was blurred. He was not available to provide this because you were serving at the time this movie was being made, correct?
Yeah, I continued to work with the agency until 2016.
Yeah, that's why he was not available. But John Krasinski had access, as you mentioned, to the real Jack Silva. We had Tig, Oz, and Tonto being providing their story and also tactical advice. But for those that were the actual team that was actually helping these actors get into shape, some of those were friends of Glenn and or Bub. So to them, it was very personal. They get this right. It's like, dude, you're doing a film telling the story of our friends that are no longer here. And that's what that's highlighted in the Blu-ray. I recommend getting it in 4K, folks. It looks fantastic in 4K to really get into the mix of things. 13 hours, available on Amazon, Best Buy, and all that. But outside of that, I just wanted you all to let you know I did not ask lightly. And I believe me, it's just such a pleasure to experience this with you both, to talk about this, and to bring awareness and the truth about all this to a more general audience.
Yeah, can I make one point though, kind of before we wrap up? I mean, one of the reasons we went after our attackers, right, wasn't to put them into a book so people would know it for history, right? It was to stop them from continuing their attacks and continuing their terrorism. And one of the things that we're dealing with now, as you can imagine, since the fall of Kabul, is some of our attackers have now gone to Afghanistan, and we have identified one of the individuals involved in Benghazi attacks right now is involved in external planning for Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So the thing is, people ignored our attackers in Benghazi. They are now more senior, and they are still planning against us, and the US government isn't going against them. And another problem we're having, the millions and billions of dollars going into the Taliban every month from the US government isn't just supporting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. That money now, US dollars flown in by the US government, are showing up with Al-Qaeda in Africa. So now the money is going even back to our attackers who haven't gone to Afghanistan. That's US dollars funded by the US government. So really what we need you to do is don't buy our book, go write your congressperson, say, stop funding the Taliban in Afghanistan. That is the best thing to help us stop our terrorists. And that is really what we need people to do. And nobody's paying attention to what is going on in Afghanistan. And it's scary because it's so much bigger than Benghazi. And it's still all the same people who impacted Benghazi. And this confusion that people just don't understand Al-Qaeda, and we've been fighting with them since 2001, is very concerning.
I thought, Boon, you might want to throw something in there, but I'm pulling up the Instagram here for Sarah's page. So right here, you'll be able to find links to a lot of the stuff I talked about. But if you hit her link in bio, it's going to open this summary of links. And she does have a link over here about contacting your congressional representatives today. This is why I did want you to have the last words there. And I'm glad you emphasized
and you can
that.
get this link in bio off either my page on Instagram, so Askari Media Group, or off Boon's, DB_Boon. We both have the same link in bio, so you can access all the same information off either page.
Good, because I'm sure some people would have wondered, well, Andres, what is the point of continuing to talk about Benghazi? What is it? Well, it's because it's all the misunderstandings from there. We don't learn from history. We're doomed to repeat them. Those same guys that are out there, because people don't understand what happened in Benghazi, those are the ones that are still out there, like you highlighted, carrying on, and they're in more senior positions now. Mm-hmm. And that's why what you're doing is pivotal, because, well, yeah, for one thing, you get a sense of just how real this is when you get the book, but it's also to help fund you. That's what encouragement to have them, not just to be caffeinated, but to also continue hunting down where all these guys are, because it's a comprehensive book for sure, but it's not the entire case file. There's more out there, and there's more names being added to the list for sure. And she has updates on her Instagram, but also to just wake up these politicians that, look, none of us have faith in any of them, but the point is we shouldn't stop. They haven't stopped investigating. We should keep holding our politicians accountable. And if they're paying lip service, if they're fundraising off this event, if you hear anybody say lock Hillary up, or never forget Benghazi, we'll call them out on that. So what are you doing anything about it? What are you doing anything about it? If your eyes are still set on Clinton or Obama, it's like you guys all just don't get it, man. Damn, that's why I hate all this political rhetoric, and we're more divided than ever.
One politician, if you want to fire Jake Sullivan, we're perfectly fine with that, because he made the fake protest narrative. He's our national security director, still effing up all this stuff. So fire his ass. We are fine with that, politicians.
Which is why I say hold them accountable, and that is one way. Oh my goodness, that I'm glad you mentioned that, because you constantly post about it. Look what Jake's saying today.
He's so incompetent. Like, I don't even have to look for info. Every day he does something stupid.
Like I said, how you keep it together, that is something. But hey, you have been way more gracious enough to be with me here on the TheAndresSegovia show, live stream exclusively on Rumble. I'm gonna wrap up for my audience. The logo says Jake the Snake needs to go.
Let's make t-shirts.
Yes. Hey,
that's the best slogan. He made it for us.
Yeah. All right. So this is the logo. Jake the Snake needs to go. And Grit Gear, if you're listening, or even 9 Line Apparel, or pick it up. Hey, Hodge Twins, if you're watching by some miracle, you guys always do something with some quotes. You can take advantage of this. Tomogo also says, bless our veterans and all who support them. Absolutely. So I guess I'll wrap up the show with you guys here, because I thought I was going to go a little longer, but I looked at the time like, no, I haven't had lunch. So and it's your dinner time, and I hope the pet wasn't starving there for my sake and the audience's sake. But
the dog's being very dramatic. He is ready to be fed.
well, I appreciate the doggo's patience here. Well, I guess that's where I'll leave it. This has been a unique, one-of-a-kind stream. Folks, thank you so much for joining me on the TheAndresSegovia show here exclusively on Rumble. I will be back on Monday for the evening show. I know the Friday schedule changed. I changed it for them. They weren't coming to make room for me. No, I made room for them. So you're the ones showing up on my show. I'll clear the schedule. You show up, I'll make it happen. So I'm glad we were able to make this happen. And to all of you that tuned in so far, a couple of hundred that watched live, thank you so very much. We appreciate you all. Spread the word. Share this everywhere. Share their links. Contact your representative. This is not over yet. And, well, they did their part. Now let's support them. Boon, Sarah, always a pleasure. If there's where can they follow you? I'll leave links, but just throw your Instagrams out there for the folks.
Perfect. It was just, again, Askari Media Group. ASKARI Media Group is mine.
And then DB_Boon.
And that link, the link in bio is available on both of their bios. Mm-hmm. So, folks, thank you very much. I'll let you get to the end of your day. I got to continue with mine. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you on the socials. And we'll be talking.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.